Hi, it's Katrina. From a Jeep that can face off with a dinosaur to a time-traveling machine, here are 10 cars made for movies that you can see in real life.
Number 10. Number 26, Wonderbread Car.
Talladega Nights was a 2006 movie starring Will Ferrell that saw him take on the role of Ricky Bobby, who follows his dream of driving fast by competing in NASCAR. With a number of cameo appearances from a range of comedians, the most recognizable thing from the movie has to be the number 26 Wonderbread car that he competed with.
As you'd expect, this car was built specifically for the movie along with some others, and in 2006 it was auctioned in aid of a children's charity. Known as the Wonderbread Hero car, it had the body of a 2004 Chevy Monte Carlo with a race car chassis, a 385 horsepower engine, and several tuned improvements. It was sold as is and wasn't road legal, but still would have been a worthy addition to anyone's collection. Since the movie came out, fans have recreated their own versions too, and the actual Wonderbread company even went on to become an official NASCAR sponsor in 2013 when they backed Kurt Busch in that year's race at the Talladega Speedway. Number 9. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Although Ian Fleming is most famous as the creator of James Bond, he wrote another book that would become a cult sensation too, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Starring Dick Van Dyke, it was about a crazy inventor who rebuilt his family's car, and the story he told them of a villainous baron who wanted the car for himself. The car itself was the most iconic part of the movie, and for some, the imaginative tale had an effect on them for life. Tony Garofolo became obsessed with it after he saw the movie at the age of 4, and in 2010, after becoming an adult of course, he decided to build his very own version of the car. 5 years, thousands of hours of work, and $100,000 later, his project was complete. He flew to LA to see the original car twice to ensure his design was perfect. Starting with a 100-year-old chassis, everything else was handcrafted, and he even used part of a boat in its construction. Still, if you think that's an expensive way of getting your hands on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, an original one from the movie would cost a lot more. Several were used on set, and in 2012, a radio DJ from England paid £500,000 for one, which was the equivalent to around $800,000 at the time. Number 8. Lotus Esprit.
Of all the cars that have been used in James Bond movies, the most iconic was the Lotus Esprit S1 sports car that was in The Spy Who Loved Me. It's known as Wet Nelly, and even though it was only on screen for 3.5 minutes, it's been highly sought after, not least because it was the car that turned into a submarine.
For filming, a submersible version of the car was made. It didn't keep the interior dry and had to be fitted with fins where the wheels would be, otherwise the shape of the car would have caused it to continually sink lower into the water. Powered by 4 electric motors to give forward propulsion, it needed 2 drivers at all times. After shooting wrapped, the car was put into storage with 10 years paid up front. When the time ran out, no one claimed the contents of the unit, so it was put up for auction and was purchased for less than $100. The lucky new owner took it to various conventions and exhibitions and finally sold it in 2013 for almost $1 million. The new owner was Elon Musk, who has plans to use technology designed by Tesla to make the submarine car fully functional. Number 7. Sir Tow Mater. Sir Tow Mater is one of the main characters in Disney Pixar's Cars that was released in 2006. He was inspired by a 5657 International Harvester tow truck and was voiced by Larry the Cable Guy. For a vehicle that was digitally created for film, it's perhaps a surprise that Pixar commissioned a real-life version, but it was a perfect prop to have at the movie's premiere, so they enlisted the help of Eddie Paul, a renowned movie car fabricator. He started with a 77 Chevy Dually pickup, which he shortened by 2 feet and narrowed the rear end. The radiator had to be repositioned to allow for the buck teeth to be added, and special aging paint was used to give the car a worn look. The result was spot on, and the real-life Tow Mater is occasionally brought out of the lot whenever there's a sequel to promote. Number 6. Shaggin Wagon. The Farrelly brothers are renowned in the world of comedic movies, but the one that first made a name for them was Dumb and Dumber, which starred Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. They played Lloyd and Harry, 2 rather unintelligent but fun-loving men who had a van that Harry used for his dog grooming job. The Mutt Cuts van, which they called the Shaggin Wagon, has been a popular design for imitation ever since it was on screen.
Originally, it was a 1984 Ford Econoline van, which was covered by tan carpet on the inside and outside, with a tail, floppy ears, legs, nose, whiskers, and a tongue. The windshield acted as the eyes of the dog, and you had to raise its leg to reach the gas cap. Versions of this van show up at shows, conventions, and auctions across the world, and is sure to turn heads wherever you go. Or you can make your own.
Number 5. 1995 Mitsubishi Eclipse. 2001's The Fast and the Furious spawned a franchise that so far has included 9 movies, and while it's featured a number of high-profile names, the true stars, at least in the beginning, were the cars. In particular, the iconic Kawasaki green 1995 Mitsubishi Eclipse that was driven by Paul Walker's character. The car was originally dark green and then silver before being repainted for the movie. It has 140 horsepower without nitrous, can reach 60 miles per hour in 8.9 seconds, and has a top speed of 130 miles per hour. While those stats may not be so impressive, the alterations made to it and the way it looked made this car the aspirational car for a generation and was a big part of why the franchise became so successful. The original that was used in filming is now kept on show at the Hollywood Star Cars Museum in Tennessee, where you can still see its see-through roll cage beam and, of course, the neon green undercar lights. Number 4. General Lee. The Dukes of Hazzard was a TV show that ran between 1979 and 1985 and went on for a movie adaptation as well. Following the adventures of the Duke boys, one of the most recognizable parts of the show was its car, the General Lee. It was an orange 1969 Dodge Charger with a Confederate flag on the roof and a horn that played the first 12 notes of the song Dixie. During production, approximately 325 General Lees were used, and it's thought that at least 17 still exist in various states of repair. Due to the extreme stunts that were featured in the show, it would be quite common to get through more than one in each episode, so it's a surprise that even that many have survived. Official General Lees often show up at conventions, and there are hundreds of replicas around the world that have been made by fans but didn't actually feature in the show. There's recently been controversy about the use of the cars because of the Confederate flag on the roof, but despite that, it's still an iconic vehicle from television history and will have a place in the heart of all who loved watching the show. Number 3. Jurassic Park Jeep.
Jurassic Park was the highest-grossing movie of 1993 because of its ingenious story and cutting-edge special effects, and it led to a number of sequels, spin-offs, and countless items of merchandise. For car lovers, the original movie had 2 in particular that were solidified in history: the Ford Explorer tour vehicles that ran along electric tracks and the Jeep Wrangler staff vehicles.
The Jeeps used in the movie were 1993 Jeep Wrangler YJ Sahara models that were originally sand beige in color, although eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed that they mistakenly say in the movie that they were the 1992 models. Of the ones used in production, most are still viewable today. Number 12 from the movie is now marked as number 23 and is at the Universal Studios in Orlando, and JP10 is at Universal Studios in Hollywood. Fan-made versions are also quite common, with some even being used as models in the video games because the original production cars were unavailable. Number 2. Ecto-1. When Ghostbusters was released in 1984, nothing like it had ever been seen before, and it catapulted the lead actors into stardom. But without Ecto-1 to drive around New York, calls to the emergency line might well have gone unanswered. The car was a converted 1959 Cadillac ambulance that was modified by the Miller Meteor Company to become the beast we think of today. Originally, the production team just rented the car, which was gold, but when they realized how many alterations were needed, they purchased it outright along with another.
Amazingly, for such an iconic design, the man behind Ecto-1's look was hardly recognized for his efforts. Stephen Dane's name was spelled wrong, and he was only credited as being a hardware consultant. The car finally died during shooting for the movie's sequel, and footage of its billowing smoke made it into the final cut. It's now in remarkable condition after a fan petition convinced Sony to restore it, and makes occasional appearances at museums across the country.
Number 1. The DeLorean. The DeLorean time machine car from Back to the Future is arguably the most recognizable car from any movie ever made. Based on a DMC DeLorean, which was the only model the company ever made, very little was changed for the production of the movies apart from the style of the hood and the wheels. From the 9,000 that were originally made, more than 6,000 are thought to still exist, and a number of them have been upgraded to look like the version in the movie. In 2018, as a part of his motoring show, Jay Leno test drove one of these replicas that was valued at $750,000. While it was an exact reproduction of the Doc's car, DeLoreans weren't exactly built to last, so those that still exist have a rather bumpy ride and aren't the most reliable car you could drive. They weren't wildly popular back in the 80s until the movies were released, but exploded in popularity afterward.
Thanks for watching! Which one was your favorite? Would you buy any of these? Or maybe make one yourself? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye!